What up, CAUSENETIC family?
Hey, welcome to the CAUSENETIC podcast.
CAUSENETIC means being a person or thing that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
We're tackling topics and telling the truth.
I'm Roderick Ross.
I'm Keith Vincent.
So today, the levels of excitement today, because the person, the superstar, the one, the only that we have on the podcast with us today, as he looks around, right?
Right.
We have been wanting and trying, in 2022, we did a CEO series. Name is right up there. We just couldn't get the schedules to mesh, but here we are today. Today with our podcast at the center of it all, featuring none other than John Hoey, President and CEO of the YMCA of Central Maryland. Welcome to the CAUSENETIC podcast.
Time out. Is it of or in?
Well, we're about being for all.
Okay.
Because that's what I understand we're supposed to be.
That's
actually the fun thing. So we use the Y in Central Maryland.
Y in Central
Because
Maryland.
much as we're all proud of our history, to be relevant to the future, and we think the Y is the best way to go because, if you think about the acronym, it sort of points out certain segments of our society that, again, we're proud of that, but think about who it excludes.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so,
then in Central Maryland.
And then
right?
we're in this community.
Yeah.
So a long time ago, we rebranded, and then we got everyone got upset. But then we rebranded nationally, if you noticed, and it was kind of the same thing. So
you guys were trailblazers.
We sort of like to shake it up a bit.
I like it.
Shake it up, baby.
President and CEO of the Y in Central Maryland.
That's where we are right now.
There we go.
Yes, indeed. We are so excited to have you today. So I'm going to jump right in because this is the question that I'm always curious about. Earlier this year, whenever we got to talk to CEOs, the question always came post-pandemic, how this, that, and the other thing. But now, as a society, because I'm a scientist in my spare time, so we've gone from pandemic. Keith, you sound a little jealous and judgy, but it's fine. So the pandemic has moved to an endemic. Like COVID is going to always be around. And so much of the discussion that we're hearing across the movement is that the YMCA is fundamentally different forever. We're not going to go back to exactly the way we were. So what is it like, because you have that experience and those triumphs from the pandemic stage, now leading this huge organization in the endemic stage?
Yeah.
What's that like?
That's a good question. There's a lot in there, so I'll try to be focused.
Yeah. I
agree with you. We're sort of in the endemic stage. If you look at the world today, and I come from I've worked in a bunch of different industries, and I've been through a lot of economic cycles. I mean, I've never been through a pandemic, so this was the first and hopefully the last one. I've never known a static world. So I sort of start with the theory that you've got to constantly be reinventing yourself.
Yeah.
You can't hold too firm to like your sacred cows.
Yeah.
But the rate of acceleration of change is what's different here.
Yeah.
If we think back, obviously, pandemic struck at least the U.S. in March of 2020. We all went through this crazy cycle. Everything was closed. We jumped in and did what we could, and in RY, we had to let 1,000 people go almost overnight.
Ouch.
That was horrible.
Ouch.
And we have, sort of regrown, and, as the public health environment has improved, we've gotten vaccines, we've gotten boosters, we've gotten tools to fight this. And we've seen folks return to our Ys, and some of our programs stand back up. Looming right behind all of that was a level of inflation that none of us have ever seen. Right? So, if you think about it, and I'm sort of you're a scientist, I'm sort of an amateur economic nerd.
See, everyone needs.
I'm a nerd in my, I'll admit it. This level of inflation is the highest we've seen it in about 40 years. And so none of us, I mean, you guys are all younger than me. You probably never heard of a 14% mortgage rate, right?
No.
No.
Good gracious.
That was my first mortgage.
Wow.
So we're seeing that, but that's on the heels of this extended period. We had low interest rates. We've had unemployment up and down. Now we're at full employment. So now we've got this weird time of, is this a recession? Is it not a recession? We have terribly high levels of inflation, but we're at full employment. And our labor market, I've never seen a level of disruption in the labor market
yes.
that I see today.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you look at all those macro forces you've got in, looking at members and families, they're dealing with that all their discretionary income has been wiped out.
Yep.
The average family in this country is paying $460 a month more in groceries this year versus last. So think about that.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah.
That is real. Like, we all have to buy groceries, right?
Yeah.
So we're not talking about luxury cars.
Right. Or high-rise apartments.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Just the basics.
So that has changed consumer behavior.
Yep.
So one of the many things we're trying to do, so we've been fighting back, and then we hit this wall of inflation. So we all thought membership would start roaring back
Yep.
as the public health environment got better, but then we hit the next hurdle. It's like a high hurdle event,
Yeah.
but the hurdles keep getting bigger.
Yeah.
And I ran track. I don't remember the hurdles keep getting bigger.
That wasn't part of
Like,
it.
what's going on with this
going on
hurdle?
here?
Man, this is now I've gone from the hurdles to the high jump.
Right? Where's the judge?
So it is a unique environment, and it is hard, and we're dealing with labor costs
Yes.
that have almost doubled
Yeah.
in the last 5 to 6 years. But we can't pass all our costs along to the consumer. And our grants are not being funded at double.
Right.
So, to be honest, I am still working through with our team where this is all going.
Yeah.
And one thing I am all in on is this idea of membership. And I think, unfortunately, the why a lot of times people equate membership with a transaction to access
I
a
agree.
fitness
Right.
facility.
Yep.
Speaking your language.
Which,
Yes,
which to me is missing the point. So in RY, we've really worked hard at thinking about membership as something that must be essential in someone's life.
Right.
And that membership is our way of creating an inclusive, healthy, engaged, connected community.
Yeah.
And that's what membership is.
Yeah.
And if we focus on that, focus on making it essential and focus it on our secret sauce, the thing that no other organization can do, then I think that's our way back.
Yeah.
We do a lot of youth development work, probably more than most WISE, and everything we do now leads to membership. So
Yes.
if you're in a community school, out of school time program, Head Start program, preschool, after school program, whatever that is, you're a member.
Yes. I love it. Connecting
And
those dots.
our job is, when you age out of a youth development program, your family is going to say, I can't live without membership, so they're going to continue on, even post an experience that was really built around a child's time in life.
Yeah.
That,
Right.
Yeah.
remember when we were children,
Yeah.
Yeah.
everything seemed to go on forever,
Yeah.
but it
Right.
actually
Yeah.
didn't,
It
right?
didn't.
It came to an
Right.
end.
Yeah.
So that is what we're working on. It takes a lot of reimagining. For a lot of our folks, it's hard to get their head around some of the things that we're doing.
Yep.
And I understand that, and that's fair. But you have to be prepared to break a lot of glass.
Yep.
You have to be prepared to rethink your sacred cows.
Yep.
And that's what we're doing. I can't predict the future, but I do know that without, from a WISE perspective, both mission and margin, as we all like to say.
Yeah.
Without membership, we've got nothing.
Right. And the way we were doing it, that transactional, I mean, for the folks listening, like, here's your opportunity to rewind, go back, and listen to it again.
Right.
I mean, the connection, the intentionality around connecting all the other things we do with membership, which unfortunately I don't know that happens consistently across the movement, right? Like, people see all of the other stuff, youth development, they see healthy living, and then social responsibility, and the healthy living is the membership piece, and that's that, and it's not necessarily a linear thought process, right?
Yeah, it's like, you walk into one of these like big outdoor malls, and I hate malls, by the way. So
John, you hurt me to my soul.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not, But I mean, it's like you go do all these various activities, but none of them are connected to the other.
Right.
And it's all a transaction. And that is that's the wrong way to think about it. Membership, you're right, you used the word engagement. I used it before, I'll use it again. It has to be essential.
Yes.
Right? So it's got to be rich in programming, and our view is, like, we're not going to keep charging you for every little program. Membership is what, we'll charge you for membership. We will scholarship you if you can't afford it.
Yep.
But we want you in, and we want you engaged.
Yeah.
Right? And so,
Yep.
and then we have to think about the consumer in ways that is not traditional for most white people. It's like, you got to think about the consumer segments, your seniors, your families with small children, your families with kids with special needs, I think, let me sort of, if you think big picture again, look at some of the things that have really been exposed in our society. They were always there, but COVID helped expose them, and one of them, we can talk about a bunch of them, one of them is an epidemic of loneliness.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which was obviously exacerbated.
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
What is membership?
Right, creating that belonging in that
Yes.
space,
Yeah.
that third place.
We have people
Yeah.
who come into our WISE every day who, they participate in programs, they work on their health, but they're there to connect with other humans.
Absolutely.
That may be their only human connection.
That's right.
All day long.
All day long.
Yeah.
Yep. Or the most meaningful, or the most fortifying, right?
As opposed to maybe, being at a gas station, and seeing another human being, but that's not connection.
You're being with a group and they're arguing, or it's a toxic conversation, or you don't feel like you belong.
But you're with people who care about you.
Yep.
You're with, and again, that's why we've got to build in intentionality to have people feel connected. And even families which have each other have been sort of walled off from others.
Right.
So, we all been in families after a while, you get sick of each other, but we do want to go somewhere together and find other community beyond those.
When we get there, you go that way, you go
Because
that
the
way,
walls
we'll
start
meet back here.
closing in. So, we really think about membership as community. And, I made the comment the other day, when we opened this conference, that I guess maybe I'm a simpleton on some level. This whole discussion around diversity, equity, and inclusion, I find it interesting in that, like, diversity is a fact. I mean, I don't even know what we're talking about. It's sort of like, it's a fact. Like,
it's there.
It's there. And by the way, do you know anything about our country's history? Like, we all came here from somewhere, except for Native Americans, and unfortunately, some people came here against their will. But we all came here from somewhere, and we all, so we're all immigrants. We're, I'm Irish, of Irish descent. When the Irish came here, they were black. They were considered the other, right?
They were othered.
When Italians came in. So it's like, we go through this process of othering people. It's kind of an American sickness.
Yeah.
Our job at the Y is to ensure that we're not othering anybody.
Yeah.
And so, we're of different, backgrounds. Who cares?
Right. Just
cares?
come together. Find the common humanity.
Find the
common
humanity. And
yeah.
so I worry, that there's too much discussion about our differences. We should celebrate our differences. Those are cool.
Yep.
I'm very proud of my, background, and I have, I'm very close with relatives in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine, and you should be very proud, and we should all be proud.
Right.
Because, we all have to come from somewhere.
Right.
And that's cool.
Right, yeah.
The other thing for me that's, I come to this a little bit differently is I didn't grow up in the Y. I never worked in the Y until I was hired as a CEO here.
Wow.
So I worked in the business world
Yeah.
and a bunch of different industries, and most of that was international in nature. So I traveled all around the world,
Yeah.
which is a highly diverse,
Yes, it is.
Right.
That
and
global perspective.
I
yeah.
was in many situations where I was the other.
Mm-hmm.
I was the one that stood out. Mm-hmm. I was in a business meeting in Seoul, South Korea, where you have to lay your shoes out in front of the restaurant, and you got all these shoes lined up, and then you got this clown shoe looking size. I'm like, wow, there must be an American in there.
That must be for me. I'm from America.
Must be an American in there.
A little different in that, Roy shoes.
I've spent a lot of time in India, which is a very interesting country and richly diverse. And I was definitely I didn't look like most other people there. So I had to find my way through connecting with other people. And I'm not any better or worse than anyone else. So I'm not saying I have the magic. But so when we talk here about diversity, to me, I've seen diversity.
Yeah.
I like it. I was born in New York City,
Woohoo,
which
me
is
too.
one of the most diverse places
It
on the
is.
planet.
It absolutely is.
I moved out of there when I was little, but I came back and I lived there
Mm-hmm.
in the 80s, in my 20s, and every nationality in the world.
You could get on the train
You
and
get
be
on the subway,
completely immersed.
and
yes.
to me, that was
Yes.
normal.
It was normal.
I didn't. People
You
like,
thought
well,
everyone was like that, had that level of access.
Yeah, and so
and the richness of those neighborhoods, you could
Yeah.
literally be in Chinatown and you would swear you were in China somewhere, right?
But
and
that
then
was fun. You went there.
You went there. You
'Cause
just
that
got on the
was a
train and
really
went
good
there.
experience.
Yes, you went to Little Italy.
You
and
didn't
you just went.
hide from it.
And you didn't feel like, oh, I can't go over there. I can't cross that. Like New Yorkers, I guess we just kind of rude that way, huh? We just went
we
there.
didn't know
we
any
didn't
better.
know any better. We just went. And
But that's,
it's
New York
amazing.
City, I'm not, we all know it's got a lot of strengths and weaknesses and
Yep.
everything. I'm not saying it's the greatest place in the world, although it might be.
Although it was just named the most expensive place to live in the world.
Yeah, well,
Not even the United
That
States.
is,
in the world.
that's
Yikes.
a fairly recent phenomenon,
Yeah.
maybe the last
Yeah.
30, 40 years.
Gosh.
But my point is, I guess I just have a different frame of reference.
Yeah.
So diversity, fact, okay. All right, so what? It's like facts. Facts are facts.
Yeah.
Actually, I find it interesting. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not, I like it. I don't really want to walk around in a world hanging out with everybody who looks like me. My God, that would be an awful situation. I can't even imagine that. That would be
Good
awful.
gracious,
My
when
name
does
is
it
John.
end?
Hello, my name is John. Hello, my name is John.
Right.
It's John.
That's not very cool. That'd be boring as all get out. So, but then diversity is a fact. Equity, inclusion is a choice.
Yes, it is.
But to me, it's a choice to be embraced.
Yeah.
And we seem to be fighting about that in this country.
Mm-hmm.
We like to fight about things. We like to,
We do.
you got to pick a side. You're either woke or you're racist, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be either.
Right. Right.
And I don't, in my heart, don't believe most people want to be in either camp. What they want to, most people, I believe, in their heart of hearts, when they get off their stupid social media,
Yeah.
when they stop arguing, they just want to be comfortable and happy and engaged in their community, because that's really what makes them tick. They've been given lots of messages from all
Right.
these sources that you got to pick a tribe.
Yeah.
They kind of want to be in the tribe they want to be in is their community, but I think, and the other little nerd part of me is social science. Well, I got a lot of nerds. 'Cause I'm also
nerd parts, the sum total. But you're
also-
not a sum total nerd.
I'm also, I was an English major, so I'm also kind of a literature nerd and a history nerd.
That's not bad.
Those are some good nerd qualities.
Anyway, so I actually think if you study some of this, that people do actually want to engage with people who are different than them.
And so many
And
things
we're,
make
you
it
know,
difficult.
so
Yeah.
I come back to now the opportunity as a why.
Yeah.
Who can do that better than us?
Right.
Absolutely.
Name it.
Yeah.
Right.
You gotta put
Name
us
the
up.
one
Absolutely.
organization do that
That can
better
do it
than
better.
us.
Right.
You can't.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's why I am fundamentally optimistic, to answer your first question,
It's an excellent thing.
while being, we are in the middle of the storm still.
Yeah.
So I know there's,
Right.
smooth water ahead, and I
Right.
know that there's a real opportunity out there. But the getting to it part is,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever flown, internationally, and you cross in the Atlantic, and it's just turbulent.
Yes.
And they say, like, we're trying to find some good air.
Yep.
Yeah, like.
And like that takes 4 hours.
It's like, oh, good gracious.
And I don't,
can you find it, please?
and your stomach is kind of knotted the whole. That's kind of what this feels like.
It
Like
does.
that good air. Sometimes they find it right away, but when they
Sometimes not.
can't really find it,
You're like,
and you're
"Ooh."
tossed and turned.
Yes.
That's
And that
kind of
just
what we're
dropping.
doing. It's like it's not just it's like we're crossing both oceans now.
Yeah.
Right.
Gracious, that is a great way to. I just got queasy thinking about that. I really did. I just got queasy.
Well,
I know, I'm taking us off topic.
No,
excellent.
you're perfect.
That is
You're
on
perfect.
topic.
I want
That is
to go back to the pandemic time,
Yeah.
and I want to talk about the secret that you and your wife kept from one another.
Oh wow, you've been reading.
Now I know in married life, now
You've
we ain't
been
supposed
Googling.
to. We ain't supposed to
Keith
keep.
is the Googler.
She got the Google
Secret.
machine.
He's the Googler.
But tell
He
us
is.
Oh,
about this.
wow.
What was going on during this time that y'all was keeping this secret from one another?
And he makes it sound so salacious, John. Like, right?
Well, it is.
It's Real Housewives of Maryland.
It is a
kind
pretty
of.
humongous secret
It is.
that they.
It's a pretty awesome secret.
So let me first, before I answer that,
Yeah,
you used a phrase there. What's going on? Which I just wanted to tell you, maybe my favorite song ever written and performed is "What's Going On" by Marvin Gaye. So,
going on?
anyway,
He
so
did Marvin
I just had to note that, like, when I hear those
Marvin
words
Gaye.
together,
Yes.
I'm just gonna be a little distracted for
All
a
right,
second.
I got you.
I downloaded it in my brain, which is not a bad thing. Now again, I'm a little older than you guys.
Now we
I feel
we
karaoke
know.
in my
But,
spirit. We should go sing it. I would be
know.
your backup singer.
Anyway,
no.
So
Yeah.
anyway, what was going on with my wife? For those who don't know, my wife is the head of Major Gifts fundraising for the United Way here in Central Maryland, and we don't really talk shop at home. Like when I come home, I'm one of those guys who. I don't really want to talk about work.
Yep.
I've done that all day.
Yep.
I mean, I want to just be with my family. I want to talk to my wife about our family, about our friends, about
Yeah.
the world writ large.
Yeah.
So, back in right before Thanksgiving, right before 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I believe it was, on a Friday, 2020, I got an email from somebody I'd never heard of saying that they represented a donor who wanted to make a contribution to our Y. Now, as the CEO of a Y, this is not like a crazy email.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's a lawyer who has somebody who died and they have a bequest, which is generally nice, but $20,000 bequest, and
Yeah.
and so, but it's not like earth-shaking, right?
Right.
So I got this, and I'm like, oh, okay, and I went about my work, and like I got through part of the day, and I'm like, I probably should answer this.
Yeah.
So I just responded and said, that's great. But the thing about, I forgot to mention, the thing about her email that then triggered something was, she said, and I would like to have you speak with somebody about this from a consulting firm that we all use, Bridgespan.
Yep.
And Bridgespan, I know them, they've obviously done a lot of work with the Y,
Yep.
and although our Y hadn't necessarily, contracted with them directly, I know a lot of their partners because I've been in a lot of meetings with them. They're good people, and the partner was in San Francisco. So and I looked up this woman online, and I couldn't really get anything other than she looked like she ran a business in Seattle, Washington. So Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, California. I'm like, oh, I wonder, we must be a member that moved out west, and okay. But then Bridgespan, why do they want someone from Bridgespan to talk? So I ended up having to set up a meeting, a phone call with this partner from Bridgespan, on a because obviously she was 3 hours behind me, so we set it up for 5:30 on a Friday night, right?
Wow.
So I often will work late, but Friday nights I try to get out at a reasonable time.
Yeah.
But I figured, all right, I'll do this, and that time of year it's dark outside, so you ever something you feel like it's 9:30 at night, right? It's only 5:30 at night. So we had this phone call, and this woman from Bridgespan said to me, have you ever, the donor is Mackenzie Scott. Do you know who Mackenzie Scott is? So, of course, I said yes. I had no idea what she...
I don't know who she is.
But I used the Google machine while I was...
Hey, keep that
Is that a
tablet
C
handy.
or a K?
If she had said Mackenzie Bezos, I would have.
Right.
Because I had heard of Mackenzie Bezos.
Yeah.
But I saw very quickly that was not Mackenzie. That was the ex-wife.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting.
Okay.
But I acted like, oh, sure, yes, of course. I don't try to lie, but sometimes you just have to play along.
Be real
There's a
cool
difference
about
between lying and playing
playing
along.
along.
Okay.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I was just trying to be a nice
That feels
guy.
like a T-shirt to me.
Of course I've heard of it.
Oh, that's right.
So, and she said, and she would like to give you $18 million.
Ooh, I bet you.
And I was like,
It's like, am I being punked right now? It's like catfish.
right.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
camera?
That is your immediate reaction,
Right?
right?
It's like,
But I had Googled the Bridgespan person who was one of the partners. I just hadn't met her, but she
Yeah.
was legit. And Bridgespan is not in the punking business.
right. That's not what
right.
they do. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I sort of and I'm somebody who tries to remember stuff. I don't write enough notes down. Some people are. I'm one of these So I have a notepad by my phone, and all I did was I wrote down the number 18.
Because what really is there to write? What else is there to write?
So and then she said, now, couple things. One is this is unrestricted. 2 is this would be the only gift you will get from Miss Scott. This is not a situation where you would come back and ask for more. This is, that she and we have done a lot of work on not-for-profits around the country, and we really admire the work you do, and we think, we want to do this. And the third condition was you can't tell anyone.
Yep. I heard that condition. This is why they didn't call me. This is why.
And,
this is why they didn't call me.
I said, I kind of have to tell my CFO.
Yeah.
Right.
And our bank is going to know at some point.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you can tell probably no more than 3 people internally, and if you need to tell a couple board members, that's it. But they have to be sworn to secrecy until Ms. Scott is prepared to communicate broadly what she has done.
Okay. Sure.
So
I will be quiet for $18 million. Yeah.
So I put down the phone, and I looked around to see if there was like any alcohol in my. Like, I'm not really much of a drinker, but like
I need something to knock this edge off.
Well, I was worried I had been drinking.
Well, hold on.
Like,
She did say, but I ain't drink nothing.
She must have really said 18 million.
Right, and I just sort of like had to gather myself, and I went back and just Googled again Mackenzie Scott and Googled again the partner at Bridgespan. Like, okay, those both legit right there.
Yeah.
And I saw that she had given some anonymous big gifts. So it's like, oh, this is really starting to add up.
Yeah.
So I called, I texted my CFO and my head of development and said, do you guys have a quick minute for a conversation? It was like 6 o'clock at night on a Friday.
They're like, oh,
Man,
They're
I'm
like,
about to go
in
on
the
this
middle
date,
of the
man.
pandemic.
never
What you
good.
want,
never
Chief?
good. You be like,
Your boss wants to talk to you late on a Friday.
on a Friday night, just can't.
Not good.
Yeah.
In the middle of a
Don't-
pandemic.
Don't call me on no Friday night and tell me I want to talk to him a quick moment.
Like,
That sounds
no,
that
sir.
sounds like exit.
Yeah, no, sir.
So I set up a little conference call between the three of us, and I said, I need to tell you something. I want to preface it by two things. One is, it's true. And two is, I have not been drinking.
I have not had any libations.
They're like, now they're used to me being a little bit, sarcastic and funny sometimes, because, I like to keep it,
Keep it real.
Yeah.
But, and then I said, we are getting an $18 million gift from Mackenzie Scott, and you can't tell anybody.
It was totally quiet on that call.
And yes.
I'm sure.
It was not an immediate reaction. They were probably driving off the road or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I went through that process with our board chair and we kept that all. We had to keep it all under wraps. 2 weeks later, we received a wire transfer.
Yep. A
So
full 18 million.
It became very real.
Very. Not a payment plan.
And that
Here you go.
was like the
Not a check.
day after Thanksgiving.
Happy
So
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving Day, so I didn't tell my wife, that she does this for a living, and I always say, my wife is a great fundraiser, but I just discovered I was a pretty great fund receiver.
Hey.
I didn't raise that money. I mean, don't kid yourself.
Right.
I did receive it,
Right.
Yeah.
like a catcher,
Right.
catching a Nolan Ryan fastball.
Yeah. Yeah. Came right to you.
Man, you got to catch that ball. It's going to go right through the mitt. So it came, and I remember Thanksgiving 2020, middle of the pandemic, at least our family, we didn't have a big get-together. It was just my daughters and my wife and I, and we do this little thing, what are you thankful for? And my kids were like, what do you think of? And then it's like, they always default to, like, I'm thankful for Buddy, our dog. Like, okay, well, that's good. And my wife, who's, very good, she probably went on about a bunch of things she was thankful for. And then, like me, and generally she was probably expecting me to make some, funny comment. And I said, I'm thankful for surprises.
Yeah.
And she looks at me like, what the heck are you talking about?
What? What surprise? You know you got to share that. What?
So, then we fast forward. We get an email from Mackenzie Scott's representative who says Ms. Scott is going to announce tomorrow all her gifts, her recent round of gifts, and you are at liberty after she does that to communicate in however you want to your organization and externally. There'll be no comment from us about, but you will be listed amongst all of her.
Yeah.
So that night, my wife and I are just talking. I didn't, again, I couldn't say. She's like, we have some great news, but I can't tell you.
Yeah.
She says that to me. I'm like, what the hell is she
Like,
talking
what?
about? I got great news, and
And I'm not going to tell you.
got 18 million.
And she had just found out that day from her boss, because the CEOs were the only ones notified.
Yeah.
So her boss is the CEO of the United Way.
Yeah.
And she had just found out. So she was sitting there like, "Ooh, I'm sitting on a big secret. I'm gonna tell my husband, but I can't tell you." And so the next day rolls around, and there's a big announcement, and we're communicating to our board and to our associates, and everybody's like, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
And I get a call from my wife. She's like, "You didn't tell me." And I said, "You didn't
Tell me either.
The United Way got, I hate to admit this, $20 million.
Oh, not only.
I don't understand how they got more than us, but it's my wife, so I'm happy for her.
Right.
And like the two of us
The conflict.
just got this massive amount of money from Mackenzie Scott, and there were a bunch of articles written in the papers about the two of us, and like
That is a lifetime memory.
this
That is a
couple,
memory.
and
Superpower
it was a bit of a thing, and got some notoriety.
Yes.
So it was an interesting time in our lives, but I don't keep any other secrets from my wife.
Like, just for the record,
I like to
do
say,
not.
I've been married once. This is my second and final marriage.
There you go, bro.
Right.
There's
There you
no,
go. There you
Done.
go.
no
Done.
secrets.
That's
Done.
it. That's
Done.
it. I
Done.
love
They're
it.
not healthy.
I love it. Oh, I love it.
So you guys are known, I'm sure, probably as a superpower couple around town.
Well, my wife's got superpowers. I'm just, like I said, I'm
See,
just
do you see
right
how he
guy in the
admits
right
that?
place.
That's excellent.
Right
Yes.
guy in the right place.
There
Right.
you go. There
Right.
you go. Well, man, this has been a powerful conversation.
Oh,
I
John.
appreciate your candor, your humor.
excited.
This is just exciting. Just dropping nuggets all day long.
John,
Yeah.
one half of the superpower couple
Right.
of the Central
Maryland.
Central
In.
who probably, it should have been a 20. I agree. It should have been a 20-20 split, but we'll take the 18. I mean, I guess we'll take this 18.
We took it.
We took it, right? Happily.
Hey, well, look, fam, thank you guys for listening to CAUSENETIC.
On this episode called At the Center of It All, featuring none other, thank you so much for joining us, John Hoey, President and CEO of the Y in Central Maryland.
Hey, subscribe and listen to us weekly.
And don't be shy, give us a 5-star review.
And as always,
Be dynamic.
be phenomenal,
Be CAUSENETIC.